All right, I want to get the Kiwi version of this, basically. Aidan, influencers sometimes come in a second, literally, sometimes over a lifetime. I always tell the story when I speak because it brings back good memories to me. And one of my first influencers was my grandfather. Him, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt were from Kyiv and came to Canada when I was about 5. He used to take me for walks in the park. And one day I asked him, I said, Zeta, when I called him, how do you know all these people? And he said, well, one day I smiled at that guy and he came over and smiled back at me and we started talking and laughing. And then another person came over and smiled at us. And I'm thinking, as a 5-year-old, well, that's pretty simple. I just got a smile. And you mentioned before we talked about little things, we talked about mental health that have to happen to progress you in a certain way. Even I hadn't thought about this before, but we talked about it. And so, and then as I went along, I realized it is almost that simple to influence people, and there's different ways to do it. So we all have a lot of influencers generally in our life. Can you share 2 or 3 that have been influential in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there's really 2 that stand out for me above anyone else. The first one was my great-grandfather. Growing up really poor, we used to walk home from school, and my great-grandfather had an apartment which was sort of halfway between school and my house. So I'd always make a point of going past, and he had chocolate biscuits and soft drink, and that for me was like, you never got that. So I felt very cool going in there and would stop and after school every day, and he'd fought in the war, he'd been in a POW camp, he'd traveled the world 3 times, and for a young kid who had dreams but had never, the furthest we'd ever gone on holiday was, an hour away to the local beach. I got so much inspiration from him telling me these stories about the world and different countries and different foods and different experiences, and I'm so grateful that I got that time with him, given he was my great-grandfather,
Wow.
because that really made me think that it was possible for someone like me to get out and leave the little town, the little area that I was from. And then, the second really powerful influence for me was when I had run away to the Philippines and the Filipino family took me in. And my Filipino mom and dad are incredible people. My Filipino mom's the head of the Chamber of Commerce now. My Filipino dad was the youngest ever CEO of Philippine National Steel. Like they had maids and staff and a big family, and he put all his workers' family through university. Like the guy was he was such an amazing role model. And for me, it was the first time I'd had a male in my life. My dad left when we were 7, and I just saw how he operated. He had the respect of the highest levels of government. He had the respect of the lowest workers who did the work for him with his fighting cocks and at the very living in the slums. His family had the utmost respect for him. His wife had the utmost respect for him, and just seeing how he operated from so much integrity and love and care in everything that he did. I mean, he really is, for me, the example of what a man should be like, so I'm very grateful for him. And then finally, I have to say my mom. We've had an interesting journey, but after all said and done, I've just realized how much she did bringing up 4 kids on a benefit, which is probably the equivalent to, from what I understand, about $15,000 a year. How you pay for rent, you put gas in the car, we always had food on the table, like we had everything we needed. And I'm just at a loss to understand how she managed to do that for us. And it's one of those things that you don't really get an appreciation for until you're a bit older, and you just go, hold on, those numbers don't add up. Like, how did you do that? Love really is it's the only way that you could make that money go that far, and be no other way.
Well, there's your proof point from everything we just talked about,
Yeah.
To be able to do that, you just have to have so much of it that it just gives you energy when you're totally out of energy.
Yeah.
That's really touching, and it's incredible. And then that's exactly what you were talking about, the abundance that happened that she didn't have, but she did have.
Yeah. I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for time to give you that perspective too, because I know at the time when you're a kid, you really think that it's not fair, but you
Right.
you don't have the full picture.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's really awesome. It also tells us Someone told me this a long time ago. He said, we're always influencing, each of us is always influencing other people, we know it or not. And it's really our choice to be positive or negative, because who knows who you influence for a minute that turn them this way to do amazing things that you'll never know, but you were involved in.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a big fan of that. I recently read Power versus Force, which is a book that talks about the power that positive emotion and thoughts have comparison with negative. And it is so many times more powerful, like orders of magnitude more powerful. So those little acts of just sending a little bit of positive energy or love or thing to somebody, it might seem like just a smile, but it's just energy, right? And it carries on. So
100%, 100%. Thanks a lot for sharing that. Really, really do appreciate it.
pleasure.